Well, the Thomas Nuttall was probably my favorite ship. I was on quite a few of them, and my favorite captain was Captain Randall, who was a very pleasant, kind man, and although he spent a lot of time in his cabin and left a lot of the day-to-day responsibilities to the chief mate, he was, in times of emergency, was up there and knew exactly what to do. So I admired him, and he was very helpful to me. For example, when I had a typewriter in my radio room, and the ship rolled so much that the typewriter would go from one end of the desk to the other. So he built a little like support or jig that he mounted the typewriter onto the desk so that it was rigid, and I was able to type safely. So those kind of kind acts is what he did. And his chief mate was Mr. Stanley, who I think he knew many years. They were both from the South, and the purser was a very nice man, Mr. Crabgrass. I think his name is Crabgrass. I may have mixed it up a bit. Because there are many other nice people on the ship, but anyway, those are the three that came to mind. So I was, one time the ship had assignment was to bring supplies to Russia, at that time the Soviet Russia, and they were our allies. And so one of the ways we would bring supplies was to go up, cross the Atlantic through the Mediterranean, and go down through the Red Sea into the Gulf of Aden, and then into the Indian Ocean, and up into the Gulf of the Persian Gulf. And then we would come into the port of Krumshaw, which was the south, I guess the southwest corner of Iran. Right across the river from it was Iraq. And the army under the Persian Gulf Command had taken control of and used the port of Krumshaw as a starting point for transporting the supplies that were unloaded for ships like the Thomas Nuttall in the port of Krumshaw. And they, in the case of the Thomas Nuttall on that voyage, we brought locomotives which had the red stars already on them, and we brought a lot of aircraft which we used, but they also used. I don't think they were marked with Russian insignia, though. The problem was in transporting supplies to the Russian border was that the gauge of the railroad in Persia or Iran was not the same as in Russia, so it wasn't really too practical to do it that way. So we had to build or rebuild the whole road system all the way from the south end of Iran all the way up to the Soviet border, and that was done by our Persian Gulf Command. Specifically the Corps of Engineers. So I had gotten out of the hospital. I had malaria and dysentery, and I was standing on the deck of the ship, sort of recovering. I was still not up there to the optimum. I saw, all of a sudden I saw a big boom, heard a big boom, and saw a big flash of smoke on the forward hold, on the numberwood hold of the ship. And then I saw our crew running off the ship as rapidly as they could, and they were telling me, get off, Sparks, get off, Sparks, it's going to blow up. Well, I was about to do so, but then the captain had already run up to the flying bridge, and he called down to me, Sparks, get over there and man a hose and get down into the hold with the third engineer and put out the fire. And well, I of course took the orders and did what he told me to do, although I was pretty scared. And the explosives, high explosives, were in the forward hold that way, and they had caught fire or had been sabotaged. I never did find out what really caused the fire. So it was a big fire with smoke, and I went down in there, and with the hoses, which pumped, of course, seawater, and the two of us in that smoke, which really was very thick, succeeded in putting out the fire. Meanwhile, the head of the Army Transportation Corps of the Persian Gulf had come alongside in a small boat and ordered us to take the Thomas Nuttall out to midstream because he was afraid that the ship was going to blow up in port, and if it did that, it would probably destroy not only all the docks, but most of the town. Anyway, we had been, our ship, the engine was cold because we had been unloading for days and days. So the chief engineer was standing by. The captain said to him, can you get us underway, Mr. Jensen? And who was an old Swede, very competent, been at sea a long time. And he said, how can I? My crew has run off the ship. I have nobody. Well, the captain said, well, do what you can. So this great guy, this chief engineer Jensen, went down into the engine room, and in about 10 minutes he got the ship underway. I don't know how he did it. It was a miracle. And we got out into midstream, and I was passing out these boxes of explosives to the crew, to the guys up above. There was mostly the officers had remained, and they were throwing them over the side into the water, and there were a bunch of little boats around that picked up the wood from the explosive storage, and they were salvaging the wood, which was valuable to them. So then the fire was out, and we stayed, for safety, we stayed in midstream for a day, and then the commander of the Transportation Corps said we could return to dock. And he wrote a letter of commendation, which appears in the Army records, and also it was sent to a number of newspapers in the United States, and it commended the crew and the captain and for a heroic act and courage, and etc., etc. And the purser, Mr. Crabtree, that's right, put me in, because I went down into the hold. He put me and the the third engineer into the government for a Distinguished Service Medal, but we never got it. And so that was the end of that